White privilege is very real and very, very practical. And today I'm going to show them to you. They just might or might not be the way you think they are. Hey guys, welcome back to Common Sense. My name is Dave. And today we're going to talk about white privilege. Recently on the internet, I think just the past week, a huge drama has been just surfaced or discussed and boiling among the Chinese American community or the Chinese international community, or I would say international community in general. But this news is widespread in Chinese. I've translated it in English, and let's take a look. Basically what happened was a British blogger from UK, supposedly, going to China, and he went on, I don't know how he met this girl, but through some social media platform, right? He's able to meet a Chinese girl. On the first day, the Chinese girl actually went home with him, slept with him, bought him food, and also paid for the hotel room. Now, this has went absolutely viral in China and on X, well, on anywhere in a Western social media where Chinese usually look for news. This is very, very interesting because I want to leverage this opportunity to talk about white privilege. There are two things that white privilege are actually very useful and very real and very practical. I wouldn't say useful, very real. Number one is dating market. Chinese girls absolutely dig, by large, white guys. Like, you can be an average looking American Caucasian guy, go to China, as long as you're not fat and bold, right? You shouldn't have problem finding girls, right? People are talking about Asmongold. Asmongold will be really popular. He's really popular in China on top of the fact he's rich. So I wouldn't say, I would easily say actually there will be a lot of girls lining up for him if he knows where to find them. Now, Hassan, for example, if he goes to China, like I mentioned in the previous video comparing those two, he's for sure going to be very, very popular. I think there are a few reasons behind it. Number one, Caucasian guys by genetics on average are just taller than Asian men and Chinese men, or the average height. The modern Asian guys are much taller. Like I see every single generation, the guys are just getting taller and taller. The younger kids now, like if I had kids already, and my kids are probably taller than me at my age, which is insane. If you go to China right now, I'm actually very, very short. Before I was average. Now I consider myself short, especially in bigger cities like Shanghai, Shenzhen, or Beijing. And that's what it is, right? So, and girls usually like tall guys. If you're tall, you're born with a privilege. And being white, statistically speaking, is taller on average. So that's privilege number one, right? So you're just gonna be better at dating. Well, I wouldn't say better. I would say like more advantaged in dating in China, right? Especially you're confident. And especially if you're one of those social media type white guys, right? If you're a social media type, meaning like you're outgoing and you don't really care, you're just there to play around, you're easy. Like when I say easy, I meant a lot of Caucasian guys are more open to body, physical touch. Where if you look at an Asian guy growing up, touching a girl, for me, at least how my family, how our society, how my community taught us is touching a girl is, unless you're a really small kid, you're holding a girl's hand in kindergarten. Other than that, when you're starting your consciousness starting to form and you understand things, touching a girl is tabooed. It's mostly tabooed. I don't know if it still is in most of the city, but well, I think they in most of the cities still are, but only in large cities. I don't know if they are still tabooed, but in most of the cities in China, they're pretty much still tabooed, right? You don't want to touch girls. Where in Western society, that's not the case at all, right? Guys, what I notice when I go to China or just here, like hugging or getting close to people is natural. It's just something that people do. Physical touch is very common here. When you take that culture and you go to China, girls are actually digging that, right? They want to be not touched, but they like people who have confidence. And to see that when a guy is more open to hold hands or lead, that's being portrayed as confidence. So that's also gives them a lot of quote unquote privilege, right? So in the dating market, white privilege is very, very real. And in this specific case, the girl bought the guy hotel and bought him food and slept with him. This is very common. I'll tell you a real life story, right? Like I have a really good friend. I'm not gonna tell about name here. And I love my friend to death, right? He's a really cool guy. Went to China. He taught me a lot of things about what actual human nature is, you know? And then I would just talk about this specific story. It's actually really related to this. We're in China. He was scrolling through Tinder. Now, obviously, I'm already in a relationship. I have my wife. When we go to China, I can only observe him date in China, right? He would show me all the girls he's dating, which is pretty cool because I've never seen it before in real life. I've only had two dating experience, my ex-girlfriend and my wife. So what happened was I saw him scrolling through Tinder. And one of the girls he shared with me, because we lived together, that girl also bought him Uber to go to her house or apartment, you know, to have their relationship, and then bought him Uber back. Also bought him like probably some other stuff. And both parties were satisfied and happy. I was super surprised. That have shocked my world. At the time, this is like 8 years ago. 8 years ago. I never thought girls are like this. That's number one. I never thought Chinese girls are like this because I thought Chinese girls were more conservative. But no, that's not the case at all. And he taught me two things. He said, in a culture where sexualities were suppressed, it's actually much easier to get girls. And that has been true in Western society where Christianity is very like popular. He find that the girls over there are actually wilder. And the same thing goes to one time we were at a Muslim country in Malaysia. The same thing happened again. There was a supermodel that was wearing like a traditional clothing. You know, she was Muslim, and you would think the girl wouldn't do crazy stuff, but that's not the case at all. The same thing happened, and many different verifications have proven that, you know, human nature just works differently. And I have been 100% convinced because I've seen it in action. You know? So when you go to Asian countries where sexuality is in general very suppressed, and here comes a white guy, tall, blue eyes, or maybe black eyes, but just look different compared to the normal guys they've seen who are nerdy, who are short, you know, fat, bald, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes, most of the times, right? Obviously, white guys gonna have a huge privilege. Now, this also extends to another story, which is because I work in esports space. And I can tell you this, right? Or from professionally speaking as a caster, Caucasian guys just have a much better chance of getting the job over non-Caucasian guys, over any other race. Now, this is not me trying to say, oh, you know, this is racism. It's not. It's just how I see it. It's just how the world works. Is it unfortunate? Maybe, maybe not. You can argue either way, right? End of the day, I don't care. How I see it is, that's how it is. You know, do I want to change it? I don't care, right? If the world, is it better for me if this reversed and Asian guy is on top of the pedestal? Yeah, but that's not how the world works, and I don't care, right? But what I observe, and I'm happy to be an observer for most of the things in life because it's super fascinating. There's so much things that's happening in life. And one thing I noticed, if you're white, there's a huge chance you're casted than any other race. This is extremely true in Asian publishing companies. Because I was involved in a game called, well, I don't want to name the games. You know, actually, I don't want to name the games here, just for the respect of the publisher. But it's a really large game with a huge audience in the West. And me and some of my friends, Asian friends, we're actually the biggest creator for that game. By the way, if you are watching this and if they happen to be the creator of that community, you would know, right? You would know exactly what I'm talking about. And we were the biggest, most watched gaming creator for that game, right? And we're family friendly as well. We purposely try to avoid, okay? Not even just like neutral. I don't cuss by nature, I like in general, but for that specific game, because we know it's targeting smaller, younger audience, we try to avoid any cussing, right? Just be family friendly. But we're not ever reached or outreached or talent or, given the opportunity to cast for any global events. Yet, if you look at the first few years of global events, it's all white guys. 100% of it. Is it racist? I don't know. But it does tell you one thing, that there is practical white privilege in the society. Right? If you're white, you by design, you're gonna get more jobs if you apply for it, and if you're a clean-looking person. Obviously, if you're a slob and you're a homeless person, that's very different. Nobody want to get close to that. But if you are someone who like to take care of himself and who stand up straight, who is confident enough, especially social media type, I can tell you for sure you have a huge advantage, especially Asian market. Dating market, and also the esports market. Another thing is from now, because now I run a social media team and I see this in practice as well when it comes to business. This is also a real-time story. And I don't want to reveal names of the publisher, but it's 100% true. We have a few competitors in North America that I worked with and competing for projects for. Our company, because we have me, right? I'm the founder. And then having an Asian culture have given us a huge advantage in the sense of understanding of hard work over the local culture. For example, in American culture, largely frowned upon I wouldn't say frowned upon, but it's like people see you as a freak if you try to push people to work on the weekends, right? For example, but that's not true in Asian culture. Asian culture very different. It's very much like you finish the job no matter the cost, right? On weekends, on holidays, your job is not done, you finish the job. That's why in Asia, it's very popular, something called 996. You work 9 hours a day, right? And then from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 12 hours a day, for 6 days a week. Same thing goes for our study. So I have the same amount of work ethic, if not more, when we try to do our startup company. So we usually, and also we charge less because I live very frugally, right? So a lot of times I don't see certain things that need to be that expensive. So we charge very practical rate. How much that actually cost us to do it and how much I think is my labor is actually worth, right? So what happens is for the same job, our company usually have much higher ROIs, return on investment, for our publisher friends. But I am not white. So competing against some of the white companies on the same industry who will charge 10x, 5x, 10x amount of money that we do for production, while always bargaining for very little amount of change, right? You give them a lot of money, but let's say if certain photos need to be taken, you didn't say you need to take this photo earlier, right? You didn't tell us at the beginning of the contract. Logically, that makes sense, but it's just not how Asian companies or culture interact with each other, and they always give us issue. But even with all those challenges coming from local companies that are led by Caucasian communities, they are still most of the time prioritized over a company like us. In fact, certain publishers want to look at us, and then they see, this is a Chinese immigrant-led company. They will purposely try to price us lower. And that's just how it is, So white privilege, by practical terms, does have that kind of impact as well. But if you're not in that industry, if you're fully local in America, right? You're just American regular trucker, like a regular hardworking dude going to a job, it's harder for you to see the so quote unquote white privilege. However, is it true? I think 100% is. Is it a bad thing? I don't know. It's not for me to judge. All I see is that's the way it is. But for in this specific case, all I saw was a regular Chinese girl liking a British guy, which is common among a lot of girls. My sister, for example, a lot of girls in China, especially with how the modern economy works, where females are more independent, they make their own money. There's no reason to fall for, the traditional societal norms where you have to marry a Chinese guy from your own neighborhood, have kids, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that anymore. Girls don't have to do that anymore. So they are free to choose whatever they want. And guess what? Girls actually, with all years, decades upon decades of sexuality suppression, now they're more free to explore. And guess what they do when they explore? It's just, I don't see anything wrong with this. On the internet, it's going absolutely berserkers. People shit talking the girl, saying like she is traitor, all that kind of stuff. Bruh, to be honest, I think a lot of it actually has to do with Chinese men ourselves, right? If you're a Chinese immigrant, by the way, I'm American by citizen. I love citizenship. I love America. And I want to share something with our fellow Chinese immigrant, Chinese descendant, right? Men. A lot of the Chinese men I notice, especially immigrant who came here, are too nerdy, in general, because they're usually coming here for high-tech jobs. And when you work in high-tech jobs, you see a very, very common stereotype. Nerdy, glasses like me, right? And I was much nerdier than now before. Look skinny, small, little petite body type, right? To the bones. Maybe a belly, sometimes bald. You get all that kind of look, and also nerdy Chinese guy here, they have a very clear goal, which is make money. So a lot of times they simply don't care about the look. And that's a huge mistake. I want to share just one thing, if you want to increase your chances in a dating market, one thing that you got to do is working out. Okay. I don't believe there's any ugly looking men. I think there's lazy men. If you don't take care of yourself, you are going to lose and stop blaming women. This animosity against females is extremely strong in Asian culture. Now more than ever. I don't know why. I see a lot of friends, Asian friends I have, who are having a lot of trouble dating. And then every time they met a girl, when we chat, I just feel this huge animosity towards the females. I was like, bro, why you hate them so much? Don't you want to date them? And then we got to bring back some traditional masculine values. What do I mean by that? I think it's just being normal. My mom has always taught me, if you're going to take a girl out, you need to pay for 100% of the bills. No matter if it's dating, like early stage of dating, or just when you guys get together. That has always been true. And that's why I have a happy relationship with my wife. But a lot of people say, oh, that's simp. No, I don't think so. I think different sex, different gender have different roles in society. And it just falls on our shoulders, it happen to fall on our shoulders as a man to take on the responsibility when in the dating market, right? To take the girl out, to treat her with like a gentleman, right? Certain values that you learn from the Western culture are actually really good about how to treat a woman with respect. And that kind of value has largely been missed, I think, in modern days. I don't know why. I think it's just that, female are too independent or maybe more independent. And that's just how society is progressing towards. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is, right? Again, as an observer, we only observe and then accept as it is. But if you're a man, Asian men especially, you think, oh, okay, with all this white privilege, I'm going to be like screwed in the market. Yeah, pretty much. I'm just kidding. No, it's actually in your own hand. Go work out, read a book, increase your confidence, right? Increase your confidence speaking to females, to women. You will be more successful in the dating market. I never see this as an issue, to be honest. I never saw dating as an issue, maybe because I'm more outgoing. But I think confidence can be practiced like anything. It's a skill. It's not something, sometimes it is built in nature by your personality. But a lot of times it can be 100% built. And that's something we can discuss on my finance channel. So make sure to go follow. With that being said, that's the topic for the day, which I think is just, white privilege. It is real, absolutely. It is very practical and advantageous for a lot of young white men, especially social media type, in my opinion. But does it hinder other races from progressing? I don't think so. But it's just harder. Harder doesn't mean you cannot do it. You can do it. I believe in you.